Fallout Season 2 on Amazon Prime is not a good show. It suffers from a bad plotline, constant lore breaks, contradictions with the games and with itself, and worst of all, a lack of direction beyond what the writers thought would be cool, summarized into a sentence with no detail beyond that, and then put in the production line. It's a show that insists upon itself and attempts to milk your dopamine over things that you recognize, while also attempting to retcon the things that you recognize, namely New Vegas. Fallout Season 2 is little more than a filler season that attempts to retcon Fallout New Vegas, which is one of the games that a lot of people still hold dearly, to not only justify the nullification of every game before Bethesda got their greedy fucking paws on it, and to set the stage for a third season which will just rip off plot points from previous games, all the while relying solely on things that you remember and no depth whatsoever. But it also wishes to push an agenda, namely that of a Californian upper-class elite, and I think that without even going 1 second more into depth there, you already know what it is that this show tries to push on you, but more on that later. Fallout Season 2 blatantly disrespects the source material and turns it into little more than a joke that is intended to be consumed without thought by an audience that wouldn't have given a fuck about Fallout if they had consumed it as it was originally intended, and as it originally was. Fallout Season 2 has no depth whatsoever, except in its stupidity, provides you no thought, no meaningful addition to the Fallout world and franchise, and most offensively of all, not a good fucking reason for you to be watching it in the fucking first place. This review will first cover the fundamental aspects of this show, such as the CGI, set design, writing, and so on, and it will then include a plot segment. In the plot segment, we will be reviewing this show episode by episode, split between the Wasteland plotline and the Vault plotline, with the latter coming first. I am doing this because, much like with Fallout Season 1, this show doesn't want you to focus on anything in particular lest your brain actually activate. So it jumps around constantly, incessantly, obnoxiously, particularly when it's retconning something that came before, and is remarkably consistent when it's not retconning anything that came before, and it's just the creation of these degenerate writers. And if you are wondering why I use that term, well, you're gonna have to wait for the plot segment to find out. So if you're not a fanboy that's already left a negative comment below before even watching or listening, so if you're not one of those people, strap in, because I am Enclave Emily, and this is my review of Fallout Season 2 on Amazon Prime. But before we actually get into the review, I need to dedicate a segment to the fucking tourists and shills that enable things to become as they are in the first place. Now, before any of the raging retards that are the topic of the conversation start typing away in the comments, just hear me out. Like you would have done to Mr. House if you'd actually played the game he's in. I have spent motherfucking years saying I do not give a rat's ass whether you subjectively enjoy something or not, be it a Bethesda game, the Fallout show, I don't care. So much so that I went out of my way in the Fallout Season 1 review to say exactly this. And yet, no matter the context, no matter what the fuck the topic is, even when the topic is Bethesda literally lying to people and scamming them, along with selling other people's work, unfinished work, there are always, and I mean always, retards in the comments, on Reddit, on other threads, on fucking social media, lying about the topic, lying about me as well, making shit up about me, obfuscating the fucking problem that is the topic of the conversation of whatever the fuck the topic is, and not learning their fucking lesson and continuing to support the most infamous liars in all of gaming. This is, above all, the exact reason why Fallout became what it is, a fucking Season 1 that had millions and millions of viewers, despite being absolutely shit, and now a Season 2 that not even the biggest offenders give a fuck about. Along with the bastardization of what Fallout was, turning it into something that was serious, or mostly serious, into a fucking amusement park shooting gallery, and a show full of millennial humor that nobody fucking laughs at, contradictory writing, and the destruction of a story that we all loved. So if you're one of the people that is just going to leave a negative comment, lie about my videos, say it's a fucking however long this video ends up being hate train, or hate marathon, or even claim that I call other people ooga boogas, I don't, I call them wasteland, then you can fuck off right now, back to Fortnite, back to whatever the fuck kind of hole you came from, and let the actual adults have a conversation and review the piece of shit products that you helped turn our franchises into. Thank you very much, and fuck off. So with that out of the way, once again, I am Enclave Emily, and this is my review of Fallout Season 2 on Amazon Prime. When it comes to the fundamental aspects of this show, it does have good things about it, but they're not without flaws. The prop design, beyond that fucking kitchen roll painted gray looking ass machine gun that people in power armor use, is actually really good and quite faithful for the most part. If you're someone who appreciates props and accuracy when it comes to the prop design compared to the video games, then this is gonna be eye candy for you for the most part. Mr. Handy, Securitrons, that fucking hammer that everyone likes except me, vault suits, Pip-Boy designs, I like all of it. And it's very faithful and accurate to the actual games. Moreover, some of the musical score of this show, when it's not... I'll get to that. When the show decides to not shove some aggressively oldie music in your ears that doesn't fit the scene, there are tracks in this show that are legitimately great, but just as I mentioned before, and I'll get more into this in the plot segment of the review, it's a shame, or should I say a thinly veiled insult disguised by artistic autonomy or some shit, that the better tracks in this show are actually very rare, and the musical quality of this show is obfuscated by the fact that the show can't fucking help itself but shove aggressive oldie music down your throat, constantly, incessantly, obnoxiously, and I can count on a mutilated hand the amount of times that good oldie music was actually used appropriately. Most of the music in this show is used absolutely terribly, and it's mostly oldie music because some people think that Fallout soundtrack is just some 1950s pop or some shit. The result is that scenes which could be taken seriously are not, because it's just some fucking obnoxious oldie song that doesn't fit the theme, doesn't fit the vibe, doesn't fit the mood, invading your ear canals while you're trying to focus on the rest. It also doesn't help that oldie songs are occasionally used as jokes, or should I say, to augment attempted jokes. Consider, if you will, one of the worst characters in all of Fallout history, a character introduced in Fallout Season 1 that nobody likes, appearing out of nowhere, literally prancing down the wasteland in order to go on a date with a robot. All the while, you have an obnoxiously loud oldies song assaulting your fucking senses as you're forced to watch one of the most unnecessary characters ever put to the fucking screen prance around like a stereotype and bonking a giant roach in the head. Speaking of disgusting creatures, the CGI in this show is somehow worse than in Season 1. For those that weren't there, or maybe don't remember, the CGI in Fallout Season 1 literally hurt my eyes sometimes, and when it wasn't doing that, it was so fucking terrible that it just took away from whatever the hell it was that they were trying to portray. In fact, it was so bad that you could always, and I mean always, see when the set ended and the CGI or green screen began. In the case of Fallout Season 2, while no scene made my eyes hurt, it is somehow worse because every single scene in this show that has a lot of CGI is just blurry, poor quality, downright distracting, and much like in the case of Season 1, it was so distracting that when we were watching it live, we literally started a game of trying to figure out exactly where the fucking green screen began, the set ended, and what was actually real on screen and what wasn't. This is not even entry-level CGI, this is CGI made up by an AI that's due to be discontinued for being insufficient in output. Actually, no, I've literally seen AI-created videos that have a better fucking visuals than this fucking show. And somehow, this show had a budget of 18 million per episode. Wanna see where all that money went? Consider this scene where two characters are outside of bumfuck nowhere, Nevada, next to a hospital. The camera shot really tries hard to show you the entire scenario, but everything you see is just blurry as hell. No, seriously, just fucking look at this shit. Look at this shit on your screen and tell me this isn't the blurriest fucking thing you've seen. I'm pretty sure someone who just got smacked in the face and who's also legally blind would be able to see with better detail than this. And then there's the writing and the fucking characters. Oh my fucking god, I'm gonna lose my mind when we get to the plot segment of this review. I'll give you a small rundown. The writers have given up on trying to be serious or deep or anything like that, but they still want to hide behind a mask. So what you get is a nonsensical comedy of characters that do not fucking behave like how they should, considering the logic of this show and the events, where more tense moments become a fucking laughingstock. And when I say laughingstock, I mean you're laughing from embarrassment. And all of this is made worse by characters that are little more than the writers in disguise, trying to educate you on their morals, on their worldview, what you should think, and of course on their fucking politics, because why the fuck not at this point? In fact, it's so fucking vapid that at one point where you're supposed to be tense, you're supposed supposed to be going, oh shit, they're actually engaging now. They just put a fucking book, All Quiet on the Western Front, on the table, and then turn a somewhat tense moment into a fucking circle jerk of dweebs who think they're actually so cultured because they read a book once. And without spoiling anything yet, let me just tell you this, it is fucking embarrassing. But I have to elaborate slightly on the character's point because this really drives me up a wall. Now, if the plot demands that a character know how to solve a problem or even know about a problem in the first place, they just do it. They just know it. But when the plot does not demand a resolution to a specific point, then they immediately go back to being a collection of raging imbeciles. I'm not trying to spoil anything here, but this is basically how these characters are. Every single one of them. They are retards who, for an overwhelming majority of the show, stay as exactly that. A collection of retards who would probably need a fucking YouTube tutorial to find out how to breathe. But then, when the plot demands it, they just magically know what to do. They just magically become competent until they cease to be so 5 seconds later. Consider these two characters, Betty and Lucy. Betty, by the way, is the Black Overseer of Vault 33 who was acting all mysterious and totally not evil in Season 1, and I'm saying this because if you didn't remember her, then don't worry, neither did I. It was very obvious she was in on all that shit and she was basically gonna be evil. But now in Season 2, she's kind, caring, compassionate, pragmatic, but simultaneously too stupid to realize that the solution to the problem she has would be to get a second guy and demand what she wants from the evil person right in front of her, because that evil person is basically defenseless. We're led to believe that she's a kind and compassionate but also pragmatic character now, but she's too stupid to solve one of the simplest fucking problems you've ever seen. The difficulties she goes through and her oh so important concerns can literally be solved in under 5 minutes with nobody getting hurt, but because this show is this show, she doesn't do the very obvious and wastes everyone's fucking time. And then we have Lucy, and oh my fucking god, oh, this is gonna hurt. I'll talk more about her later, but if you remember how in Season 1 she became determined and started to understand the wasteland at the end of Season 1, and you expected to see a Season 2 in which she had developed, then you're an idiot, because now throw all that shit out the window because she's back to being an irritating, retarded, stereotypically acting yuppie that won't shut up. So all that alleged character development you saw in Season 1, all those expectations to see actual character development because that's how characters work, all those events that should have changed her even just a little bit, they were all literally fucking meaningless because she acts exactly the same way as she did in the first episode of the first season of this fucking abomination that is the Fallout show. Now extrapolate everything I just said to literally every single fucking character and you have the Fallout show. A show in which trying to predict the events of the story are meaningless because this story does not have a story, it has events, and it has characters that are not characters but rather Muppets. Muppets that will act according to what the authors and the writers and the whatever the fuck want, rather than progress as, you know, actual characters and human beings. But I think that now we should actually get into detail and review this show episode by episode to show you the absolute travesty that this is. So let's start off with the plot segment of this show in the Vault plotline. One final thing before we begin, though. I define the Vault plotline as the plotline that takes place in Vault 32 and 33, and the plotline involving Norm, Lucy's brother. If you don't remember who these characters are, don't worry, I'll give you a recap in just a second. But just to clarify, I am doing this because this show is hopping around between scenes and plotlines in a manner that is even more aggressive than in Season 1. I will also do this sort of split for the Wasteland plotline, but I am doing this because it is legitimately difficult to focus on any given scene in particular, because if a viewer actually does do that, their brain may actually turn on. This is one of the reasons that so many people simply tapped out of Fallout Season 2, because even though Season 2 appeals to the same imbeciles that Season 1 did, this constant hopping around back and forth in order to get you to not think about any of the given things in particular simply results in the previous scene leaving your mind the very second it changes. And if you're a normie that just wants to consume consume the product and then get excited for next product, it's kind of difficult to consume it when the show seems to be trying to prevent you from consuming it. The only way to actually remember things in detail, or at least relative detail in this show, is to turn your brain on and keep it on at all times, which is the exact fucking thing that this show is trying to avoid. And if you keep your brain turned off, you're just gonna tap out because you're not going to get that dopamine you're so desperately seeking. Anyway, I just needed to clarify that. Here's your recap. Now, the show does recaps every single episode, including of what happened in the previous season, but I'm going to completely disregard that for one very specific reason. The reason for that being that the show literally tries to deceive you in its recaps. I'm not going to play any of them here. I'm already going to have to edit this in a funny way, just so it's not taken down by the YouTube algorithm or the copyright system or whatever. But I needed to bring attention to this at least once because the recaps, the fucking recaps, actually piss me off. Season 1, and even a lot of episodes in this season, are little fucking more than sequences of jokes, bad jokes, millennial jokes, masquerading as something that might in some way be serious if you really stretch it. About 150 times more stretch than the average feminist nowadays, but the recaps of season 1 try to make it seem like the things that came before it, be it the previous season, season 1, or the episodes that it's recapping, were actually really serious, deep, and sometimes it gives you a wrong idea of what happened before. I don't mean that it tries to turn a certain thing that was comedic into something serious. I mean it gives you an outright incorrect idea of what happened and how it happened. It's a typical Hollywood trick in order to make it seem like things are tense when they're actually not. But anyway, here's the recap. First, the characters. This right here that you're seeing on screen is Norm, Lucy McLean's brother, Lucy McLean being the quote-unquote main character in Fallout show. And before you ask, yes, that's the grown-up kid from Hannah Montana. He didn't go into the wasteland with Lucy in season 1 because he just declared himself to be a coward, but ended up being the bravest character in all of the vault. He's an outcast, but he's also super duper smart, and he figured out that evil corporate vault tech is hiding something, got outsmarted by a robo-brain on a Roomba, and then got trapped in Vault 31, the vault in which the super secret, super special managers are cryogenically frozen in. This one over here is called Chet, but I'm not going to refer to him as Chet throughout this video. I'm going to refer to him as Cousin Fucker. I call him this because within 15 fucking minutes of the first episode of season 1 starting, he declared his love for Lucy, his cousin, and that he simply can't stop thinking about her. Believe it or not, that's gonna be fucking relevant in this season as well. Keep it in mind for this video, and keep it in mind for the following part in the Wasteland plotline. He had a monkey makeout scene with pregnant bitch from Fallout show season 1, because pregnant blonde bitch was horny over thinking about her late husband's addiction for shoes, and after witnessing this...
Now that is one wet lady.
It's the moon that gives it the sun.
Became blonde bitch's unofficial husband. And if you're wondering why I'm calling her blonde bitch, well, this character that you're seeing on screen is called Stephanie, but again, I'm just calling her blonde bitch. I'm calling her this because the writers can't seem to decide whether she's a raging lobotomite or a super sinister, totally not evil person. She's part of the staff of Vault 31 and infiltrated Vault 33 and now just acts as a character that quote-unquote guides events in the Vault Society. After losing her husband in Fallout show season 1, she was eventually elected as overseer of Vault 32, or should I say assigned as Vault Overseer of Vault 32. Go motherfucking figure, Cousin Fucker is also in Vault 32 with her now. These two that you're seeing on screen are, I can't even fucking remember their names right now because I didn't actually write them in my bullet points. I just call them the Bumblefucks from Bumblefuck Patrol. They are quite possibly the stupidest characters in all of Fallout show season 1, and believe me, that's fucking saying something. They're now in Vault 32, and somehow they're actually smarter than at least half of the characters in Fallout show season 2. If you don't believe me, just fucking wait and I'll show you. And finally, this is Betty on screen. Yes, the stereotypical, overweight, black female character that's also really kind, reliable, but also kind of sinister because she's associated with Vault 31 and she's now the overseer of Vault 33. In Fallout show season 1, she was very sinister, incredibly sinister. But in this season, we're gonna find out if she's still incredibly sinister or if she changed. And finally, the last thing you need to know is that there is a water crisis in Vault 33 because the water chip got damaged during a fight where nobody got close to the water chip somehow. And yes, it's a fucking Fallout 1 reference. Oh my god, do you recognize it? Did you fucking clap when you saw it? But I'm sure it's just a manufactured crisis in order to get everything back in control by the vault management system. I mean, Season 1 clearly established that, you know, they continuously manufacture a bunch of crises in order to not make the population think, and in order to maintain control on behalf of the people connected to Vault 31, the managers of the 3 vaults, Vault 31, Vault 32, Vault 33. That's literally something that was very well established in Season 1, right? That's very well established. They couldn't fucking possibly actually turn this stupid, obviously fucking manufactured crisis into something that's actually a real crisis. They wouldn't fucking do that, right? No, but they wouldn't do that. But yeah, there's a fucking water crisis in Vault 33. Anyway, let's get on with this shit. The Vault plotline starts in episode 1 to the tune of, oh goddamn it already, goddamn son of a bitch. Yes, we brought back the fucking counting gag from the Season 1 review because it's somehow gonna be even more fucking prevalent here. It starts off to the tune of a fucking oldie song, and no, it's not appropriate, it's gonna be fucking ear grating, but I'm gonna count it anyway because this is absolutely inexcusable. The majority of the soundtrack of Season 1 and Season 2 is oldie songs because apparently the people who made this show seem to think that the soundtrack of the Fallout games is actually just a bunch of oldie songs, and no, most of the oldie songs used in this entire show, Season 1 and 2, are not going to be used appropriately, and if anything, they spit in the face of the actual occasions in which you, the player of a Fallout game, would actually hear an oldie song. The only motherfucking times in which we hear songs that aren't just obnoxious, ear-grating, unfit oldie songs from the 1950s are when the show is trying to seem poetic and hashtag so deep, or, and I can't even fucking believe it, it's the Fallout 4 theme every time the NCR is on screen. Sorry for spoiling it so early, but yes, they're going to play the Fallout 4 theme every time the NCR shows up. Sorry that I spoiled it, but I just need you to know that they are going to play the fucking Fallout 4 theme every time the NCR shows up. It's not really gonna be relevant in the Vault plotline, but it's best to fucking inform you now because holy fucking shit, I am not going to justify this later. And I really need you to know how insulting the soundtrack of this show is. Anyway, and by the way, stick with me for this description of the first episode of the Vault plotline because I need you to understand how quite literally every single fucking scene in the Vault plotline is. Anyway, a Vault plotline of Season 2 starts in Episode 1 to the tune of an oldie song as one of the bumblefucks from Bumblefuck Patrol is sucking on a lollipop as he walks around Vault 33 and runs into a room where Betty and some other Vault dweller are trying to figure out how to solve the water crisis. Betty, the overseer of Vault 33, don't forget that, I almost did, and I've only been recording this for 10 minutes by the way, is clearly very concerned because a lot of the solutions for the water crisis just simply don't work. They don't have spare parts, so on and so forth. The lollipop-sucking bumblefuck from Bumblefuck Patrol asks where Norm has been, and Betty responds that Norm went on an exchange program in Vault 31. For context, by this point, Betty knows that Norm found out about Vault 31. The bumblefuck is very clearly upset because Norm is, quote, moving up in the world, and that everyone is moving up in the world except him. The show tells, rather than shows, that Reg, the bumblefuck in question, is very upset about this, and he asks Betty if there's any way that he can be useful. Then he starts bragging about having a PhD in something that's completely unrelated to engineering and breaks something in the laboratory. Correctly identifying how absolutely pathetic he is, Betty suggests that he start a club. Reg is unsure about the idea, so Betty says that he can start a club about feelings that people are feeling because the times are very difficult. And in this club, Reg can take the opportunity to talk about the feelings that he's feeling. Reg clearly doesn't know what he's feeling, so Betty says that he's feeling shame and completely fucking useless. Reg is unsure about the idea, but says that to start such a club, there would need to be a snack budget. So Betty, clearly being sick of this middle school drama, says that he can send a request and that she'll sign the document. So Reg walks away, and in defense of Betty's actress, I could feel her exhaustion even at having to play out this embarrassing embarrassment of a scene. And of course, her relief at it being over. With that scene being over, we move on to Vault 32, where blonde bitch is clearly very busy typing away in her computer doing something. One of the unfathomably useless vault dwellers talks to her, but she clearly doesn't want to hear the half of it and just wants him to go away, so he does. But not before we see that Steph, the blonde bitch, clearly wants to murder half the people she has to interact with because they're so pathetic. The guy, who I just found out is called Davey, walks out and finds the cousin fucker taking care of the baby that isn't even his. He refers to blonde bitch as cousin fucker's wife, to which Chet responds that she's not his wife. He then mentions the baby, to which he responds that it's not his, and then he talks about family, to which Chet responds that he doesn't have one. I think this was meant to be a joke, but all that I registered from this little section is that Chet is not only a cousin fucker, but he's also a cuck. Davey then walks away, but he's confused because he's so used to the layout of Vault 33. Now in Vault 32, everything's inverted, and he almost slams into a wall. In case you can't tell, that was also supposed to be a joke. Chet walks into the overseer's office, where Stephanie is cutting open an orange in a very threatening way. He explains to her that the kid isn't his, and that they're not married, so there's no point in him actually taking care of the baby, to which Stephanie responds that they should just get married and be done with that, and she also names the baby Chet Jr. Chet tries to protest this, but she clearly doesn't want to hear it and makes very menacing motions with her knife and the orange. So Chet walks away, and then Stephanie takes the opportunity to go on the PC and establish communication with other vaults, namely Vault 31, and we get the only smooth transition between scenes in this show. In Vault 31, the robo-brain on a Roomba is trying to fix the console that Norm broke. He fails at this quite clearly, and then tries to find out where Norm is. Norm is in between the cryogenic pods, consuming rations. We get some tense music as the robo-brain on a Roomba threatens Norm, but the robo-brain can't actually reach Norm because there's stairs in the way, which makes me wonder who the fuck designed this thing and what kind of tension there is supposed to be. So, the robo-brain that's supposed to manage Vault 31 but can't access 90% of Vault 31 because there's 3 steps of stairs, tries to negotiate with Norm instead. He tells Norm that he is not going to open the door, that he is the only one that can open the door, and that the only way for Norm to survive is to get into one of the pods. For a moment, it looks like Norm is actually gonna fall for it, and then we get a sudden scene transition back to Reg, who has established, and I'm not even fucking kidding, a products of inbreeding support group. He's making them repeat a few sentences about not feeling any shame. One of the members is just there to eat snacks, she's just eating snacks and not saying anything, and 2 redheads that are very clearly dating. The redhead woman wants to change the rules of the vault to allow for active inbreeding between fucking siblings. Reg says that this is not the point of the group, at which point the 2 brother fuckers in outrage stand up and walk away. Reg is also about to lose the old woman that's only there for the snacks, but he talks her into staying. However, the method in which Reg does this allows the old woman who's just chowing down on snacks to use Reg as a familial counselor and talk about her problems with her mother to the tune of another oldie song. By this point, the vault plotline has been 11 minutes in length and it's already used 2 oldie songs. This show only has 2 proper uses of oldie songs and they're in the Wasteland plotline. If the fact that they've used 2 oldie songs in 11 minutes is shocking to you, then get fucking ready because it's gonna get even worse. But the conversation with the old woman is something I want to go back to for just a second. See, after editing basically all of this video, it was brought to my attention that I actually missed something on initial viewing of the show, and during production of this video. The old woman that the bumblefuck from Bumblefuck Patrol is talking to isn't just talking about familial problems, I mean she is, but it goes deeper than that. She is specifically talking about a rivalry with her mother. What kind of rivalry? Well, a rivalry in being with their siblings. It turns out that the old woman you're seeing on screen was actually a very promiscuous person, and she had a bit of a reputation for, how do I put this, being with her siblings, and she starts listing off different degrees of cousins. Upon reviewing, I realized that as the oldie song slowly increases in volume, you can hear her mention that her mother saw her as a direct rival. The implication implication here being that the old woman that you're seeing on screen wanted to get it on with her own father, and that's why her also promiscuous mother saw her as a rival. So that's just fucking great. We haven't even finished episode 1 of season 2, and we already have a cousin fucker, a brother fucker, 2 brother fuckers, rather, and now a father fucker, because of course we do. That's the extent of depth when it comes to character development in this show. And I mean, really, does this even sound like Fallout to you? Is this really even the same franchise that gave us Robert House, The Master, Frank Horrigan, and so on? Fallout has been turned into a franchise that had that, and is now little more than a brand of incest competition. If you defended this show, just know that I legitimately believe you're inferior to me, god damn it. But really, the biggest problem here is that these writers really are telling on themselves. They really are self-reporting, but I'm not going to elaborate on that yet. And yes, I said yet there, for fuck's sake. Anyway, back to the video. The oldies song continues as we move back to Norm along with the RoboBrain on a Roomba, and we get to see that Norm hasn't actually fallen for the RoboBrain's ideas. Norm, clearly sick of this bullshit, does what he should have done back in season 1, approaches the RoboBrain on a Roomba, kicks away the syringe that he had, thus making him harmless, holds the RoboBrain with one foot, and then opens all of the cryopods. And that's the end of the Vault plotline for episode 1. So now, did you catch all of that? Did any of it seem interesting to you? Does this seem like the kind of show that's enticing and something that you want to stop watching this video for to be able to go watch? Oh, what's that? No, this seems like one of the most uninteresting, boring fucking things you've ever seen? Well, congratulations, because this is how the entire Vault plotline is. A collection of uninteresting characters, uninteresting plots, uninteresting conversations, making a mockery of how Vaults actually were in the Fallout games, making a mockery of Fallout, and wasting our goddamn time. In case you couldn't tell, the only character in this entire fucking show, spoiler alert, that I don't absolutely despise is Norm. Yes, he doesn't do the obvious because the fucking plot demands it. Because if he did do the obvious, the runtime of his sections would be like, what, 25 seconds? But unlike every other character in this show, Norm is not a stereotype, and he's not a raging imbecile. The same, of course, cannot be said for quite literally every single other character in this show, and yes, that includes the ghoul in the Wasteland plotline, but I'll get to that in the Wasteland plotline in part 2. But unlike this show, I respect you, Fallout fan, I respect you, dear viewer, and I will not waste your time anymore. So, we are going to move at a somewhat faster pace, but keep in mind that everything that you are seeing, every event that I am describing, is exactly like what you just heard and what you just saw. An absolute waste of time, useless conversations, pointless plots, middle school tier drama that's cooked up by someone who lived in an elite school and wants to think of what a stereotype of what modern drama should be or is like, and an insult to your senses. If these writers really wanted to have a Vault plotline, and even if these writers wanted to have characters as stupid as they do, it could have been done a million times better. Even if this show absolutely had to have a Vault plotline with characters as stupid as this, it could have been done a million times better. You could have had these raging imbeciles trying to solve the supposed water crisis. You could have had Reg create an actual group in order to figure out how to do it, and how to better support each other during this time. In Vault 32, the guy that went up to meet Blonde Bitch could have actually had a real problem instead of just complaining that he can't figure out where to go. And yes, that's what he was talking to Blonde Bitch about. He can't figure out where to go. Blonde Bitch could be far less of an evil, blatantly evil stereotype, and Bud Askins, the RoboBrain on a Roomba, could actually be a proper RoboBrain, or less of an idiot trying to threaten the guy that he can't even reach. But I suppose we should just move on. The Vault plotline in episode 2 starts with an actually pretty decent soundtrack, and all of the Vault managers, all of the people frozen in those cryopods, are now being woken up. Norm is contemplating this, looking at them, and as they mostly collect themselves, Norm says that there's been a change of plans and starts to act like he's actually in the know. And then after a stupid joke of where a character who really shouldn't be okay just declares she's okay even though she really shouldn't be, we return to the conversation from before. Norm informs them that it's been 200 years and that it is indeed a reclamation day like some of them are theorizing. surprising. But then he also tells them that Bud Askins, the robo-brain on a Roomba, is dead, and we get to see that the fucking robo-brain is, thank fucking god, discarded like the trash that he is. At being informed about the fact that Bud Askins is dead and the fact that they cannot open the door without Bud Askins, they start to panic. One of them complains that someone ate all the crackers. I don't know how the hell that worked if you were all frozen. Another one does a "can I talk to the manager" type of comment. And Norm does a serious face while contemplating how the fuck he's probably gonna beat half of these people to death. One undeserved and sudden scene transition later, we return to Norm once again after most of the idiots have calmed down. But not all of them have actually calmed down, so Norm, absolutely sick of this shit, screams at them and demands their attention. He tells them that he's actually a genetically engineered super manager and that he's actually in the know about Bud Askins, that being the robo-brain on a Roomba's, plan. Being deceived by this, everyone's back in cooperating mode and they stop panicking. Without saying anything, Norm has managed to get them to do his work for him, and they figure out that the best escape is probably through the ventilation system. After all, a good chunk of these people actually did work on Vault 31 before the war. This scene thus far has lasted 2 minutes and we get yet another scene transition, and then when we get back to Norm once again, they're trying to reach the ventilation system to the tune of, already again? They're trying to get to the ventilation system to the tune of an oldie song. Climbing on top of each other, they eventually find a ladder. Norm goes up first, and then they exit into the wasteland. Now, real quick, given how the entire escape plan requires them standing on top of one another, multiple people standing on top of one another, I am slightly confused about how they all made it up, but we're not actually supposed to think about it because there's a tense song playing and you're not supposed to think because the music said so. Anyway, they all make it into the wasteland after exiting from an exhaust vent that's buried by sand and just out there in the open. I'm not sure how anyone didn't enter that place. And we get some attempted awe-inspiring music as they all gaze into the wasteland. This might work for the characters, but it doesn't work for us because remember, we've already seen the wasteland. And with that, that's the end of the Vault plotline in episode 2. And in case you didn't realize it, yes, the Vault plotline in episode 2 surrounds only Norm and has a duration of 8 minutes. 8 minutes. This definitely seems like the kind of story that absolutely had to be there and not something just to pad out the runtime. The next time we see the Vault plotline is all the way in episode 4, where we're back to the Products of Inbreeding support group where they're partying around to the tune of another fucking oldie song. And we see that Reg, one of the bumblefucks from Bumblefuck Patrol, is getting more water, at which Betty chastises him for this because they're supposed to be in the middle of a water crisis. And this is supposed to be a tense exchange. We know that this is supposed to be a tense exchange because the music is tense despite the fact that Reg just has a very punchable face with a very punchable grin on him. And yes, during this entire exchange, Reg is very vehemently defending his group, his inbreeding group, calling them, and I'm not even kidding, a distinct subculture. As the scene ends and Betty looks at Reg walking away with a very concerned expression on her face, the fucking oldie song starts up again, and yes, I'm counting it twice because there was a very distinct interruption in it, and this Vault scene ends. It's because of scenes like this that I'm starting to realize that the only reason I don't hate Betty's character is because she acts as a vehicle for my fatigue at the Vault dwellers. The next time we see the Vault plotline is with Norm and all of the Vault managers. They're scavenging for supplies in the wasteland and find a truck full of crackers and snacks that was not only untouched by radiation but has also just been left there for 200 years. Don't question it, I guess. And to the credit of the show, we actually get a pretty decent exchange between Norm and his very obvious love interest, or someone who's gonna develop into his very obvious love interest, contemplating the psychological impact of going to sleep one day and then waking up the very streets that they knew so well and that they walked through, now destroyed 200 years later. And you know what? I'm actually really enjoying this. The soundtrack for this exchange is actually also pretty fucking good. I want to go more in depth and they get interrupted. God damn it. The person who interrupts them is acting very sinister and declares that they were Bud's personal assistant. He is the guy who, by his own words, did Bud Askins's lunch orders while Bud himself was in meetings with the Vault. Yes, the guy that's acting all mysterious and sinister is Bud's fucking lunch boy. Regardless, it is very obviously implied that he knows a lot more than he's letting on, and Norm, realizing this very obvious threat to his lie, remains quiet but firm and tries to get more information out of him. him. The lunch boy tells him about future enterprise ventures and how that is a very important part of the plan for Vault 32 and 33. Let me say that again. Future enterprise ventures is a very important component of the plan for Vault 32 and 33. I will say that a third time. Future enterprise ventures is a very important part of the plan for Vaults 32 and 33. The plan for Vaults 32 and 33 relies on future enterprise ventures and phase 2 of the plan. I wonder if this is gonna come back later. Maybe not. Anyway, they move off and then we cut to Woody, the other bumblefuck from Bumblefuck Patrol, who is walking around in Vault 32 to the tune of... I'm getting so fucking sick of this already, goddamn. Woody, the bumblefuck from Bumblefuck Patrol, who is walking around in Vault 32 to the tune of an oldies song, and he accidentally walks into Davey, that old guy that was talking to Blonde Bitch back in episode 1. It would appear that Woody, much like Davey, is getting confused about where to go because he's so used to the layout of Vault 33. Davey, realizing they're both complete brick brains, says that earlier that very day they walked into the women's men's room and Woody then walks away. We then cut to a scene where Betty and Stephanie, Blonde Bitch, are discussing the current state of events. Betty says that she found Bud Askins upside down in a mop bucket and tells Steph that Vault 31 has been abandoned, everyone is gone, which is a complete lie, by the way. I only noticed this when editing, but Betty says that everyone is gone, even though you can still see hundreds and hundreds of cryopods just fucking sitting there with people inside, but I can't even. I guess it was just added in CGI afterwards. She says all of that, claims that everyone is gone, and then she says that the water crisis in Vault 33 is getting worse. Wait, hold on a second. Season 1 of this show very clearly established that Vault 31 and the staff and the management and all that shit regularly manufacture crises in order to get people not to think, get people to remain unified, and make it so that the members of Vault 31 that are now overseeing and staffing and controlling the other vaults always remain in control. This was the sinister subplot of Season 1, in case you don't remember, or don't know because you were smart and didn't watch this show, unlike me. And yet, you're telling me that the very obvious Fallout 1 reference, the very obvious crisis that the show very clearly implied was made up, much like every other crisis in the history of Vault 33 to keep people under the thumb of the staff and management that originated from Vault 31, you're now gonna fucking tell me that it's actually a real crisis. There was no, and I seriously mean no indication that this was going to be the case. The show basically, but not literally, stated in Season 1 that this was gonna be the case, that it was going to be a fake crisis, and yet now in Season 2, suddenly it's actually a real crisis and not a fake. They just fucking ran out of ideas, didn't they? They just fucking ran out of ideas and just decided to take the very obvious fake crisis and turn it into a real thing, didn't they? The world of Fallout is a world in which you can do 1 bajillion fucking things, and they somehow have already run out of ideas for a plotline that could have just very seriously been abandoned until a later season. God motherfucking damn it. And by the way, if you think that I'm exaggerating when I say they've run out of ideas, stick around, because trust me when I say you're gonna really be proven fucking wrong if you doubt me. Anyway, Betty and Blonde Bitch are having a conversation in which Blonde Bitch is acting very sinister, and it's obvious she's up to something that Betty doesn't really know. Betty, to her credit, has realized and openly states how fucking stupid Vault-Tec's plan actually was, or at least the part of the plan she knew about. Yes, it's that obvious that there's something else. And if you didn't believe me when I said that this show has problems for the sake of having problems and padding out the runtime, Betty says that Stephanie should actually share the water from Vault 32 because the water chip in Vault 32 isn't damaged unlike the one from Vault 33. What the fuck? If you knew that the water chip had actually been damaged and that the water crisis was going to be a real thing, why the fuck did you split the fucking vault population and not just, oh, I don't know, go to Vault 32 and get their fucking water chip? If Betty was actually a caring character that just wanted to survive, then why the fuck did she create the very crisis that she is now struggling from? Gee golly fucking gee, dude, I fucking wonder why. It's almost like the fucking water chip being damaged in Fallout Season 1 really was just a throwaway Fallout 1 reference, but when the writers, who had zero faith in their creation, realized that they were gonna get a Season 2, they fucking panicked, realized realized they couldn't rip off the summary of the script for the cancelled 1998 Fallout movie and turned an obvious throwaway reference to Fallout 1 into an actual fucking plot point. And you know what? That's not even the worst part of it all. These writers have absolutely no creativity, but we haven't actually gotten to the most offensive parts yet. This is just a fucking display, a fucking example of how uncreative, untalented these hacks of writers actually are. To them, our franchise is nothing more than fucking set dressing, and when they realize they can't actually think of anything for themselves, they turn their vapid, stupid fucking references into actual stupid fucking plot points. And now, despite the fact that this entire fucking ordeal could have been avoided by, you know, simply doing the most obvious fucking thing, despite the fact that this problem should have never existed in the fucking first place because in Season 1 a bunch of regular vault dwellers got slaughtered, so why the fuck are you splitting up the fucking population in the first place if the water crisis is also real? At the exact same time you just lost like half of your fucking population. Despite all this, we are now stuck with a plotline that could have been completely avoided, is pointless, is not entertaining, and only exists because the writers literally ran out of ideas but had to pad out the runtime and also come up with a stupid little something so your brain wouldn't actually turn on when you're watching this, because to them, they don't care if you're a fan or not, they just see you as stupid consuming cattle. But I got carried away there. I just really had to talk about how absolutely stupid this show is, and how obvious it was from the beginning that the writers aren't actually talented. Believe it or not, a lot of people still doubt me on that, but now, hey, here's one bit of evidence for you, and believe it or not, this is actually one of the most inoffensive bits of evidence to show why I say the writers are not creative at all. Or, you know, talented. And if you noticed something I said there during that rant, well, you'll have to wait because I'm not going to elaborate on it or even tell you what it was until it actually comes up. Anyway, after a few moments where the exchange between Betty and Blonde Bitch continues, Stephanie tells Betty that she will share the water if Betty goes into Vault 33 and finds a special keepsake and gives it to her. What is this keepsake? I don't know, but the point is that if Betty delivers the keepsake to Stephanie, then Stephanie will consider giving Vault 33 her water, or at least part of it. They then part ways, walk away, and we find out that Woody, of all people, was actually listening in on a good chunk of the conversation. Now, despite how stupid that entire scene was, we actually have a very interesting dilemma here. We have Woody, a very stupid character, who, despite being a raging imbecile, knows very well that Steph and Betty were not supposed to be where they were. He overheard a conversation that betrays the reality of his life and all that he's believed in, and he's now stuck in a vault with a very sinister and very obviously evil character. I don't know if it was accidental, but, to reuse the term from before, the show actually managed to create an interesting dilemma that actually grabbed a part of my curiosity, and I was legitimately looking forward to seeing how the hell this was gonna be solved and gonna be handled. Maybe it was just the morbid curiosity about how they'd fuck up the following sequence of events, but it at least grabbed my interest after an entire season and a bit of not doing so. The next time we see the Vault plotline, still in episode 4, yes, we're still in episode 4, we cut to Chet, the cousin fucker, who was doing some laundry. As he's doing the laundry, the camera pans out and we see that Woody, the bumblefuck from Bumblefuck Patrol, is currently talking to Stephanie, and he's...
Did someone commit a violation?
Well, it appeared to me that you did.
You've gotta be kidding me, Jesus Christ. Call me naive, but I really didn't expect something on this level of stupidity. Woody, the bumblefuck from Bumblefuck Patrol, who is unfathomably fucking stupid, but also very loyal and believing in Vault life, Vault society, and the rules, just discovered that there are two people related to the Vaults that not only throw his entire belief system up in the air, but that one of those two people is the fucking Overseer, an Overseer who is breaking the rules that he so vehemently believes in. And somehow, the writers decided that the best way to follow up from Woody finding out about the secret meeting between Stephanie and Betty was to follow it up by immediately showing Woody going to the very fucking criminal and admitting that he knows that she's a criminal, but not doing anything about it. In case you aren't aware, Woody over here says that the rules say that he must report any violation of the rules to the Overseer. But the problem is that the criminal is the Overseer, and the only thing he can think of is to report it to the fucking fucking overseer. We don't get to see any internal drama. We don't get to see him telling someone else about it and trying to figure out what to do. We don't get to see him think for himself for 3 seconds and realize that maybe, just maybe, the revelation that the things he's been believing in this entire time may just be a lie are a reason to break the rules just this fucking once and actually stand up for himself. No. He immediately just cuts to going to Stephanie and confessing to the fact that he knows about her crimes and doing absolutely nothing about it. To the surprise of a whole who the fuck even knows, Stephanie starts acting even more mysterious than she usually does, and let's be honest, she's probably planning on how to kill him. Chet, who's been suspicious of Stephanie this entire time and who knows that there's something else going on in the vault that he doesn't fully understand, takes the opportunity, now that blonde bitch is actually distracted with something, to rummage around looking for things that may incriminate her. After all, if he finds such a thing, he may be able to protect himself later on or even save Woody. Just as blonde bitch increases the level of stereotypical back alley sinisterism in her attitude, Chet finds an ID card. It's a bit of evidence that proves that Stephanie is worse than even he himself previously believed. And indeed, she is worse than Chet previously thought. She's worse than a robber, she's worse than a killer, she's worse than a traitor, she is, may God forgive me for using this word, a Canadian. One has to wonder why or how she kept such insanely incriminating evidence for all this time and so readily available to boot, but I'm not gonna bother asking questions about that because, and let's be honest, I don't know the answers, and frankly, the writers don't either. Anyway, upon making this discovery, Chet tucks the ID card into his pocket and goes back to pretending everything is fine just as Woody leaves. And so ends the Vault plotline for episode 4. The next time we see the Vault plotline is in episode 5, in the middle of episode 5. Jesus Christ, this really is a fucking C-tier plot, isn't it? Norm and the other managers have arrived at the Vault-Tec headquarters, but they find it in a mess. Sand got inside the building, there's corpses everywhere, and there's a recent barricade with blood on the wall. As they turn to inspect the rest of the surroundings, they get ambushed by 2 old ladies with guns, and really? Them again? The 2 characters that ran a certain shop in Philly from season 1 ambush the vault dwellers and hold them at gunpoint. Due to the extremely convenient nature of this convenient convenience, one of the old ladies, the obviously more recognizable one because you need to clap when you see it, says, "Well, I'll be more vault dwellers," and this makes Norm perk up because he realizes that there is a very good chance that she may be referring to his sister, Lucy. The camera zooms in with very tense music, and suddenly it cuts away to one of the old ladies eating from a can with 200-year-old food, presumably, and sitting opposite of them are some other vault managers who are very uncomfortable because behind the barricades there is a lot of violent noise. The vault managers are trying to stay composed, but they can't because there's a lot of that noise coming from behind the barricades, to which they are informed that it's a roach farm. In case you couldn't tell, this entire setup is supposed to be yet another joke. That's what millennial writers think is funny, by the way. Cut away from tense music, turn off all the music, and then create an awkward situation that has something very attention-grabbing. Apparently, these 2 old ladies have been surviving in the Vault-Tec headquarters building by farming roaches and then selling them to market. What market? I don't know. I guess they eat roaches or something. While the situation is taking place, Norm is talking to the lady from the Philly shop, I'll just call her Philly Lady, who is recounting her story from Fallout Season 1 in Philly from the start all the way until the destruction of Philly by the Diet Enclave. The Brotherhood. She then informs Norm of the situation in Los Angeles. This is because Norm is asking about Lucy, and she says that Lucy's odds are slim. The reason for her saying that Lucy's odds of survival in Los Angeles, California are slim are, and I wish I was joking,
pretty slim odds with it being con country. Pretty slim odds with it being con country.
Yeah, that's right. Not only did Fallout show retcon Shady Sands move its location, turn it from the largest faction in all of Fallout into a single village in the LA Boneyard, also retconning the LA Boneyard. Now, the retconned former capital of the new California Republic that was destroyed by a retcon intended to retcon New Vegas. Now, the retconned Shady Sands is just Great Con territory, something that we have never seen in Season 1 and something that we will not see in all of Season 2. To show you how stupid stupid this is, here is a map of the West Coast as of Fallout New Vegas. Here on the screen is where Shady Sands used to be before it was retconned to here now. I'm going to give you a minor spoiler and reveal something about the Great Khans. The Great Khans are, and yes, this is a retcon, currently occupying Novak near New Vegas. But, according to this throwaway line trying to do world building and doing the exact opposite, the Great Khans' territory is, as of Fallout Season 2, like this that you're seeing on screen. But, if you remember Fallout Season 1, you will know that the Fiends are also in Los Angeles, California now for some reason, so their territory may or may not look something like this. Honestly, what a fucking mess. This is what they call world building? Really? This is what so many people defended as an evolution of the world and a new story to tell? Not only is all of this literally impossible according to the endings of New Vegas, which we all already know is being retconned on purpose because Todd Howard hates New Vegas, but what is being created now is not only a parody of a parody of a parody of an insult of millennial writing, not only is it not creative and simply a reskinned version of a certain script from not only is it a reskinned version of ideas that were already done before, not only does it strike me as a pathetic first attempt by someone trying to write a story on Reddit, but it is so unfathomably inconsistent and incoherent with itself that I'm honestly wondering if the writers even remember what the hell they did. That's a bit of a rhetorical question because I know for a fact they have no idea what the hell they're doing, but if we, Fallout fans who emerge from time to time to review their shitty products, can spot stuff like this, very blatant stuff like this, then I'm honestly wondering what the hell it is they're up to. Honestly, I don't know and I don't really care anymore, but what I do care about is how satisfied I feel seeing the tourists and shills who keep trying to defend this show try to justify bullshit like this to me. Anyway, Philly Lady does a very serious face and tells Norm that he's better off simply going home, offers Norm and the other vault managers any supplies they can carry if they need it, which she justifies by telling her other unnamed companion that she's just trying to be a better person, turns around, calls Norm and the other vault dwellers a bunch of dipshits, tells them not to touch a roach farm, and then walks away. That entire scene was 4 minutes, by the way. They just really want to hurry this along. Later on, Norm and the others are inspecting the rest of the Vault Tech headquarters, trying to find information on what it is that they're supposed to be doing, kind of confusing because Norm was pretending that he knew exactly what he was doing even though it's very obvious he doesn't. This place, and don't ask me how this works, still has power, and so, while other people look around in different parts of the building, Norm and his very obvious love interest head into an office area, turn on a computer, and while the computer powers up, they have an obvious exchange that's trying to build up a future relationship of theirs. They talk to each other about not being crazy. Norm reveals that he's not actually in the know, to which the girl responds that it's a good thing. But what they do not know is that Bud Askins' lunch boy is listening in from outside. The girl turns to leave, leaving Norm alone, and Norm starts searching the database. In the database, he types Future Enterprise Ventures. However, there are no results. There are results, however, for FEV, that being the forced evolutionary virus that turns people into super mutants. And in case you haven't figured it out by now, this is a setup for Season 3 where they're going to retcon FEV. In fact, they're already kind of doing that, because the obvious implication now is that FEV wasn't actually a program to create super soldiers, but rather a program to create super managers. And I'm gonna call it right here, way before Season 3 ever comes out, that they are going to turn this into the end goal of Vault-Tech's plan. They are going to, in Season 3, claim that the plan all along was to create a forced evolutionary virus in order to create super managers for a new super vault society. And I'm also gonna make this prediction right now, that was always the primary point of FEV, or at least that's what they're gonna claim it is, and that the FEV that created super mutants was just a side project. This ends up being little more than another clap because you saw it, clap because you recognize it, seal bait moment. And the reason I say that is because Season 2, by and large, is little more than a filler season, riddled to the brim with plot points that simply do not get developed. Had they developed the reference of FEV and the connection between it and Future Enterprise Ventures even just a little bit in this season, I wouldn't call it a seal bait moment. But because this is a C-tier plot of a filler season in which they don't really want to develop it, it being any plot point that actually does have some sort of connection to the games and the stupid references they keep bringing up, I, Enclave Emily, under the authority of being a Fallout YouTuber, declare this to be cringe. But unfortunately, the cringe isn't actually over, because as Norm is reading the database entry on FEV, his computer turns off. The lunch boy, taking his opportunity at the fact that Norm is alone, declares that Norm lied to him and starts attacking him, to which which Norm defends himself with a lamp. Tense music is playing, clearly trying to instill a sense of tension in us and failing miserably, when Norm gets attacked from behind because he messed up in his footwork and gets knocked out by the lunch boy. And that's the end of the Vault plotline in episode 5. But you know what? I actually have to give credit where credit is due in the name of objectivity and fairness. Despite the fact that this show is absolutely riddled with them, episode 5 in the Vault plotline managed to avoid using a single oldie song. So I think that what's happening is that the show is starting to moderate itself and realizing that as we progress, there is even less of a reason to use oldie songs. And to be honest, I'm actually starting to feel a little bit better about it. I'm just hoping that this streak of not having an oldie song continues. Anyway, episode 6 starts... Oh god, episode 6 starts to the tune of an oldie song, and we get to see that there is a line outside of the inbreeding group, because apparently this show simply can't get enough of showing us this shit. There's a queue outside of the incest group where we see that the two brother fuckers from episode 1 are dating, being romantic with each other. The old lady that was in a rivalry with her mom because the mom felt threatened that she wanted to fuck her dad or something, is acting as a fucking bouncer for entry for the group. Inside, everyone is partying, and goddammit, the oldie song increases in volume. We get a close-up shot of the two brother fuckers, products of incest, because that's just the sort of thing that we need a close-up shot of. I wish I was joking, but the oldie song increases even more in volume as we see Reg playing the piano, making bizarre faces as the camera changes video effects multiple times, absolutely nonsensically, because the fucking makers of this fucking show wanted to play around with camera effects and wanted to seem cinematic and deep, basically trying to show off how cultured they are because they know different fucking aspect ratios related to different times in history during video making. And thankfully, I've never been so glad to say this, Betty walks in with armed guards and shuts them up. The inbreeding loving bumblefuck from Bumblefuck Patrol stands up to Betty and accepts the dissolution of the inbreeding support group. Oh, thank goodness for that, holy fuck. But claims that he will absolutely refuse the rejection of the snack budget. Betty correctly points out that there is an actual water crisis and that this is entirely counterproductive because he's feeding people salty snacks, and apparently Betty is the only one with a brain because when Reg strikes back, everyone agrees with him. Betty, and God bless her actress because I could feel her exhaustion at even having to play out this embarrassment, makes a public appeal reminding the Vault dwellers that they are all going to die if they keep abusing rations like this during a literal fucking water crisis. She then turns to Reg and says that he does not have the right to get extra rations just because of who his parents are, to which, and oh my god, to which Reg replies that yes, actually they do indeed get to have extra rations because of who their parents are, because this is America. That because of who their parents were and who their parents were in turn, they get to put themselves first, and then Reg turns to Betty and says, I'm not ashamed of that anymore. The quote, that in that sentence that he is no longer ashamed of, by the way, being that he is a product of incest. Oh my fucking god. What the fuck is up with this show and all of the inbreeding, the incest, and the obvious commentary that America is proud to, apparently, be a collection of selfish inbreeding hillbillies that are so proud of each other, simultaneously, unreasonably, unjustifiably biased towards people from other places. I just can't anymore. This is too much degeneracy. This is too much fucking degeneracy. I can't. I'm taking a break. Holy fucking shit, I'm taking a break. Can someone fill in for me? Who can? Mist, motherfucker, Mist, get the fuck over here and fill in for me while I go get drunk or something. Holy shit.
The Vault plotline, or the incest plotline in Fallout Prime, is one of the most disgusting plotlines I have ever fucking witnessed at anything in my entire life. Holy shit, this plotline makes me want to fucking rant about it again, because what happened in this fucking disaster of a dog shit show made me question humanity's morals about why modern media is ass. Thankfully, I'm forgetting everything I saw, but still, I must discuss the sheer atrocities I witnessed and heard when watching this piece of shit. It's incest support group, as in supporting people from the results of inbreeding and not about having incest and loving your cousin or whatever not. They had a good moment where the guy said no to the two relatives who were in love, but the next scene it loses all the plot where everyone's in there eating salty foods during the water crisis. The water crisis wasn't relative at all because the other vault had a working water chip, but for some reason the overseer decided to divide everyone, and now she can't access it due to the new overseer she places in. And these people survived a famine, so they should know what they are doing is dangerous and stupid, but they don't care. Also, they're supposed to be super managers or the underlings for said super managers, but they are also so stupid that they can't follow orders. Holy fuck, what was this writing that I had to endure upon myself? Every fucking character is boring, this side plot is boring, this plotline is a waste of sheer retardation for the sake of Hollywood writers fetishizing about they themselves fucking their own cousins. What was the point of this side plot when it has nothing to do with the 3 fucking main characters and their retarded subplot lines? Every fucking time the Vault Dwellers were on screen, I wanted to turn off the screen, which, you know what, I actually skipped some parts because it has nothing to do with the actual fucking story of what is happening with the 3 main characters. Nor do I even care about the 3 retards. But you know what? It's better than the whatever the fuck I was watching with the Vault Dwellers. Because that's how fucking boring it was. That's how low I was watching this motherfucking show, especially the fucking incest plot line. These Hollywood writers just wanted to add humor, and even though it wasn't funny at all, but all cringe and unnecessary, they wanted to add shit like this for the sake of making assumptions that white people are being the only race that inbreeds. You know why? Because it's Hollywood, and Hollywood is run by fucking far leftists, and that is what the show's target audience is aiming for. Never in my entire years of living did I ever withstand such discomfort and blandness in my life as due to watching this shit. And all this because we got some retarded Vault Dweller making an incest club because he was bored, so instead of anything better to create as a group club, he has to create an incest club. You know why an incest club? Because they can't come up with anything better because the writers are retarded just like everyone in the show. Oh my god. Yet there's people online on fucking Twitter that will find this plotline hilarious, like many a true nerd. Although I said this in my other video before, I would rather let the human race die, to be honest, than to see any of my family members or myself fucking another relative of mine. Only dumbasses will find this shit hilarious, and I would actually like to question those people's intelligence. I would like to know what is hilarious about the incest jokes or anything that is happening with the Vault Dwellers. What is intriguing about that? My god, if this continues in season 3, which it actually will. You know what, if it actually does, I honestly don't even know what to say anymore. I honestly, I can't think of anything. I'm exhausted of talking about this piece of shit. Because there is no point to it. It's time wasted to everything that is happening, and even though this show is already terrible, I will give it credibility that the other plotlines were actually trying more than the plotline with the Vault Dwellers. It irritates me so much to no fucking end, and still to the point where I gotta rant about it in Emily's video, because why the fuck not? Because if it wasn't enough in my video, and it still bothers me for how fucking stupid everything is. And the fact that we have to withstand 6 seasons of retardation already says enough about fucking modern media. Fuck this show, I hate this show, and everybody who worked on it. And everybody that did work on it, please go fuck themselves. Oh my god, I happen to those people so they won't come back and actually have to write this fucking piece of shit ever again.
Thank you, Mist. Thank you very much. Now fuck off back to doing your FF7 retrospective, because you may be done here, but I'm sure as fuck not. You may have noticed that throughout this video, I have been making references to the writers' self-reports, and placing particular emphasis on degeneracy and the particular behavior of the characters. The reason for me doing this is because when I say that the writers are self-reporting, I literally mean that the writers are self-reporting. In an interview with Jonathan Nolan and Todd Howard, because of fucking course he has to be everywhere, Jonathan Nolan states quite clearly that the Vault Dwellers are something that he relates to. He says that during a certain pandemic in 2020, that they felt like Vault Dwellers, they being the writers, along with himself, and that this is a way of inserting their experience when they were locked up. He never says that the entire experience of what we see in the Vault is a perfect representation of what it was. However, during the confinement, during this certain pandemic that I'm not allowed to mention because of YouTube, Jonathan Nolan says that he and the other writers relate quite clearly. Graham Wagner, another of the fucking degenerates that made this piece of shit, said in another interview quite explicitly that Lucy is based on himself and that he was worried that people would hate her because he and Geneva are prone to self-loathing. Geneva, by the way, being yet another of the staff members of this show. Let me repeat that again. Lucy is a self-insert by Graham Wagner, and he's worried that people would hate her because both he and Geneva, his colleague, are prone to self-loathing. This seems like a suspiciously large amount of self-inserts about their own lives rather than the franchise that they're supposed to be making a show based on, doesn't it? Not only did they rip off the script of not only are they simply going along with things that have already been done before, they seem far more focused on themselves and inserting themselves into this than actually making a show about Fallout. This is a Californian upper-class elite trying to to tell you about their oh-so-important lives rather than the things that you actually care about. And with people so self-centered, what else do you think that they've been shoving into this show this entire time? Well, if you've been paying attention to my descriptions of the events and also on screen, then you will have undoubtedly noticed that even in this side plot, the Vault plotline, the framing of a lot of scenes seems to be rather convenient, doesn't it? I'm not going to point out every single event in which this happened, I'm just going to focus on this one single scene in episode 6 in the Vault plotline. The topic will eventually come back in the Wasteland plotline in part 2 of this review, but for now we stick to this. Consider the framing of this scene. A bunch of Habsburgian privileged lobotomites are partying away during a literal crisis. This crisis could lead to everyone dying, but they only care about themselves and not the rest of the population. A mysteriously stereotypically looking black lady comes in, makes an appeal for the public good, and then says things that really should be common sense. Reacting to this appeal to common sense, the selfish and arrogant yet clearly somewhat insecure product of incest fires back that he, along with the others, do indeed deserve all the privileges that they're getting. And he follows this up by riling up the people around him for the sake of popular support. A popular support that is, by the way, based on selfishness and egocentrism. The understanding, concerned, and collected black lady then calms down and makes yet another appeal to something that is even more common sense, and reminds the privileged product of incest that he, just because of his lineage, does not or should not, in fact, get special treatment and extra rations. This selfish product of consanguinity then fires back that indeed they actually do all deserve that because of who their parents were, makes a very loud vocal appeal when turning to the rest of the people, saying that this is America, then turns to the black lady and says that she is different because she is from a different vault, aka she is a foreigner, and that, according to him, because she is a foreigner, that she doesn't understand how things are done there, that she, the black lady from Vault 31 that is also a foreigner, is different from them, from Vault 33, points an accusatory finger at her, struggles to actually explain his points, but after pointing yet another accusatory finger at her and reminding her that she is different from them, perks up once again with a face of sheer arrogance, grabs a bit of jelly mold because of fucking course you had to bring that back from season 1, and shoves it in his disgusting mouth while showing the fact that he is indeed going to continue consuming the ever-needed rations in the face of her concerns and in the midst of a fucking water crisis. Holy fucking shit! If this didn't sound like Fallout and more so sounded like a lecturer from a fucking libtard university, privileged upper-class elite trying to lecture you on how evil you are for being where you're from, the malicious exposition about a certain group of people, aka the majority of a certain country, and how evil they supposedly are in the face of the concerned and diverse black lady who just wants the common good, then congratulations. You, dear viewer, have an IQ of above 6 or 7. A lot of people doubted me when I said that politics actually did influence Fallout Show Season 1 and continues to influence Fallout Show Season 2. Fallout is a franchise that went from handling political themes with nuance and depth into a thinly veiled political lecture from a fucking out-of-touch ideological elite with their heads so far up their asses they can see the sunshine and are back up their own asses again. This Fallout show is, on top of being a fucking excuse for Todd Howard to erase the West Coast and fully dominate Fallout because he hates what came before. I'll get to that in part 2 of this review. It's also an excuse for these writers to insert themselves, talk about themselves, show you how relatable and quirky they are, like a bunch of degenerate Alabama-type quirk chungus kind of people, and lecture you on their politics and their degenerate, corrupted worldview instead of actually handling things with nuance or, you know, making a show about the franchise named after the... God damn it! I've said it before countless fucking times and I'll say it again. I don't really fucking care if you actually enjoyed subjectively this show. But do not, for the love of all that is holy, lie about it or let this shit slide, because this is what our franchises are being turned into, from fun, in-depth, nuanced explorations of, you know, worldviews and shit, into cringe-inducing political lectures made by someone who you will never ever relate to, and who will never ever, and I really want to underline that, ever relate to you. If you're one of the people that still wants to defend this show show and defend the political messaging of this show and then call me all manners of ists and phobes, well then, go to a bridge and increase a statistic while you're at it. I don't even have anything written down for this section. I can't fucking deal with this anymore. Let's just move on. The scene ends as we get a close-up shot of Betty's concerned expression. Then we move on to Chet to the tune of a fucking goddamn just stop! We move on to Vault 32 to the tune of an oldies song where Chet is taking care of the baby and doing I don't even care anymore. And he overhears someone say that Woody is missing, at which point Chet is very concerned, knowing exactly what happened and why. Following this, the Vault plotline in episode 6 ends as we see preparations for a wedding between Chet and Stephanie coming up in episode 7. Finally, god damn it, this episode's over. Holy. Even editing this show, which is what I'm doing if you can't tell by the change in audio quality, this shit is absolutely exhausting. You may be fatigued and exhausted just by the things that I've been telling you and showing you thus far, but imagine, if you will, how this feels like to me. Someone who found Fallout at a very important time in their life, grew infatuated with it, enjoyed it, appreciated it, wanted to learn everything about it, having to watch this show on live stream for all to see what my reactions are, and then making this video. And you know, in the process of making this video, having to rewatch the show again to ensure I don't miss something, which, if you've been paying attention, I actually did. I'll elaborate on why I missed it in the future in the upcoming segments. The answer as to why I missed it has already been given multiple times, I just haven't brought particular attention to it yet. This is what our hobby and our passion is being turned into, a thinly veiled excuse for writers and, you know, elites to self-insert themselves, for egotistical corporate hacks Todd Howard to destroy what came before and completely take over it, to bastardize with writing that wouldn't have been even in the minds of even the most barely sapient human being. Yes, I'm calling the writers non-sapient human beings, because really, what else can I call them at this point? They turned a franchise that had an immense legacy, one of the greatest legacies in all of gaming, filled it with millennial writing and turned it into a collection of self-inserts on the road to destroying everything that came before. Honestly, if you're not outraged by this, I'm honestly wondering what the hell it is that you're even thinking. We deserve better from our hobbies, we deserve better from our passions, and we deserve better from these companies because they need our money. And if they need our money, they shouldn't be treating us like this. But I think it's about time we move on to episode 7. Come on, the Vault plotline is almost over. There's 2 more episodes left, so alright, get ready. Breathe in. Alright. Episode 7 starts off with a flashback sequence. I hope you get used to them because in part 2 in the Wasteland plotline, they're gonna be very prevalent. It's blonde bitch's backstory. She's running away through the woods with her mother from a concentration camp, a place that most fans of this show should go to learn how to concentrate on the things they're looking at. They stop for a moment once they get intersected by a vertibird. They look at the vertibird like a bunch of idiots, and then a guy in power armor shows up out of nowhere. He's holding a machine gun with only one hand and is part of the United States Marine Corps, which are for some reason tasked with finding escapees from concentration camps. I'm not sure how that works. He holds them at gunpoint, calls them a name, and orders them to go back to camp when... Oh my god. Let's look at that again. $18 million per episode, and these writers not only keep writing themselves into a corner, but then their way of getting out of said corner is to spawn a guy off screen who runs at the power armor and blows himself up. The very cheap explosion effect too. This is supposed to be a tense scene in case you can't tell, but it ended up just being absolutely comedic. And not even comedic in a good sense, I was laughing from embarrassment. The show that everyone keeps giving 9s and 10s out of 10s to keeps writing itself into a corner, and then when it tries to be tense once in a blue moon, it fails miserably. We get an allegedly spooky moment where Stephanie wakes up without her eye patch, turns to the camera, how shocking, and then we return to the flashback sequence again. It turns out that the cultural enrichment of the guy in power armor led to Stephanie's mom getting wounded. Then, as the footage rapidly changes between the flashback sequence and present day, Blonde Bitch Sr. tells Blonde Bitch Jr. that she needs to forget her upbringing and do whatever it takes to survive the, quote, incoming flood, because of course she knew that the world was going to end in nuclear fire or something. And as the camera shots continuously change between present day, flashback sequence, the conversation with her mom, and whatever the hell she's doing afterwards, we see that Steph, a Canadian, kills another Canadian despite hating Americans, runs to the border, kills a border guard, and then enters America. I suppose this was their explanation as to why Stephanie is so sinister and evil, but really it was more like a schizophrenic changing of camera shots to make you not be able to focus on anything and the increasing of GDP of the guy in power armor. We then get a 50-second scene where Norm is waking up after being knocked out, and as the vault managers are being informed of who Norm actually is and the fact that he's lied to them, one of the vault managers picks up something that looks way too heavy to just knock him out, brings it down on his head, and knocks him out again. If you're wondering why this scene even exists, it's because you haven't been paying attention, because, as I've said before, this plotline, like I've said before, only exists to pad out the runtime and also to get you distracted from the events taking place in other plotlines. Because I mean, really, what else is the point of having a scene where Norm wakes up and then gets knocked out immediately right afterwards? It's not like anything plot critical was actually said here. Norm just woke up after being knocked out, heard the other vault managers discussing how to deal with Norm, and then the vault managers just knocked him out again. And to be honest, I don't know if it can get any worse than this. Anyway, we move on to Vault 32, and oh god, of course! We move on to Vault 32 to the tune of an oldie song where we're reminded that Steph and Chet are getting married today, actually. So Chet, ever a good housewife, is doing the dishes when he finds out that there are glasses in the sink. And those glasses look awfully familiar. Wait a minute. Do they belong to the bumblefuck? Okay, hold on. Are you seriously telling me that the evil, scheming, forward-thinking blonde bitch killed and disposed of Woody without anybody noticing, but then was stupid enough to leave the glasses in the sink? Why not dispose of the glasses the same way she disposed of Woody? We're not actually told how Steph killed Woody, but because the glasses are there, I presume that Woody was killed in that very same vault unit. But if he was killed in that very same vault unit, then how the hell did Steph get rid of the body, but then failed to get rid of the glasses? The implication here is that Woody's body was cut up and then shoved down the sink. But if he wasn't killed in that vault unit, then the implication here is that Steph actually killed Woody, but then kept the glasses as a consolation prize or some shit, but then tried to get rid of them anyway. This doesn't make any fucking sense. I know the writers are retarded, but the writers can't even write the world's most obvious murder without stumbling into absolute stupidity. This is embarrassing to have associated with Fallout. The same franchise that in 1998, it's 2026 by the way, gave you an actual murder mystery in which you had to find actual clues and put the pieces together. But now, despite the fact that Chet already has all of the evidence and motivation he needs to go after Steph, they just shove this fucking shit in unnecessarily in order to pad out the runtime and seem mysterious and thriller-esque. And somehow they still managed to fuck it up. Couldn't it have been like a piece of paper or something with a bit of blood on it or something? Maybe that paper could have been in the trash and Chet noticed it while trying to throw out the trash or some shit. I don't know. This is embarrassing. Seriously. We move on to Betty in Vault 33, who decides to move aside a painting of Todd Howard as Napoleon and gets the keepsake that Steph asked for. Cut to Steph, who is coming to meet Betty and sees the keepsake and is very excited to see it, at which point Betty jump scares her and congratulates her on her engagement, at which point Steph realizes that Betty has people spying on her. I'm surprised as well, considering the fact that every single vault dweller is retarded, and that there is absolutely zero explanation to explain how the hell Betty accomplished this exact thing. As per the deal, Blonde Bitch says that Vault 33 will indeed get 50% of the water. Betty, satisfied but still suspicious, tells Steph that she, Betty, does not want to be part of whatever the hell Steph is planning. To which Blonde Bitch turns around and says that she can't promise things like that because the plan is bigger than both of them. Now wait a minute, for one, there's an actual plan, so that's shocking in and of itself. But secondly, a Canadian actually has a plan that is bigger than both of them. Now, they're vault managers associated with a secret plan by Vault Tech. What exactly could this plan be? Let me think about that for a moment. No, I can't figure it out. Let's continue. We now cut to Norm in a 25-second sequence where Norm is getting untied by his love interest and freed from captivity. Instead of running away, Norm goes to the radio and tries to contact Lucy, saying that he's in trouble and that he needs help. And after and I'm not kidding, 4-second section of the Wasteland plotline, we cut back to Norm again, who failed to escape because he chose to go on the radio instead of running away. And now he and his love interest are trapped in the room with the other vault managers blocking the door. And in case you're unaware, that latter part was less than 30 seconds. We then cut back to Vault 32 to the tune of, oh my god damn it, Jesus Christ. We are in episode 7 of the Vault plotline in season 2, where one of the episodes did not have anything related to the Vault plotline. We already have more unnecessary uses of all these songs than the entire Vault plotline in season 1. Given that this is a filler season in a filler plotline, I am honestly terrified to even think about how many oldies songs the Wasteland plotline's even going to have. If you're wondering what an appropriate use of an oldies song is like, then go play a Fallout game or wait for part 2 of this review and you'll see. There's only gonna be fucking 2 of them, but I'm gonna have to point it out when I see it because I need to grasp every bit of positivity that I can find in this piece of shit, but I'm just delaying the inevitable. Anyway, we cut back to Vault 32 to the tune of an oldies song where Blonde Bitch and Chet are getting married. And from now on, despite the fact that he's a degenerate, I'm no longer going to call him cousin fucker for one very specific reason, and you are about to see why. Chet, when it's his turn to say I do, says I do not. He then turns to the audience and admits that he was just playing along this entire time because he needed an event in which he had a lot of witnesses. He says to the audience that Blonde Bitch actually hurt Woody and that she's part of a plan to hurt them. To back up that first claim, he says that he found Woody's glasses in his garbage disposal, but when asked where the glasses are, he admits that he, like an absolute idiot, put them back in the garbage disposal. However, realizing how this makes him look but remaining defiant, Chet perks up again and says that Blonde Bitch wasn't actually born in Vault 31, that she's 200 years old.
She's Canadian.
Let's watch that again.
She's Canadian.
And again.
She's Canadian.
This was supposed to be a climactic moment, but I actually found myself enjoying it for all the wrong reasons. I mean, when watching this on livestream, everyone's reaction was exactly the same, that being laughter and the immediate creation of memes. Leave it to this show to not try to make a joke for once and accidentally create the funniest scene in the show, when the rest of it is just stupid, boring, and dull. Anyway, at having her cover blown, Blonde Bitch starts to run away, and we get small cuts to the flashback section when she herself was running away. This goes to show how stupid the show thinks you are, because we saw that 30 minutes prior in this episode, and the relation between her running away then and her running away in the flashback section was obvious even if they hadn't put those small cuts to the said flashback section. Had the flashback section been a few episodes earlier, I would have understood it, but here it just goes to show how stupid the show writers actually think you are. It also goes to show the target audience of this show isn't exactly the sort of person that pays attention or has a basic memory. But anyway, Blonde Bitch runs away as we get cuts to the flashback section. She locks herself in the Overseer's office, just as other Vault Dwellers start pounding on the door, and with that, the Vault plotline in episode 7 ends. Episode 8 starts off with Norm being dragged away by the Vault managers to the protests of his love interest. The lunch boy is berating her and Norm because they lied to them, and he says this is America once again, because the show wants to make sure that its political message that it's shoving down your throat gets understood, and if you didn't get it during the incest breeding group's party scene, then it wants to make sure that you get it now. The love interest tries to save Norm, but during the process, the lunch boy throws her up against a wall and she accidentally hits the call button for the elevator. Conveniently, the button for the elevators is still working, however, when the doors open, there is no elevator. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's how that works. One of the nameless Vault managers looks down the elevator shaft and then gets attacked by rad roaches. Oh shit, pirate software reference?
I worked at Blizzard for 7 years.
At this, all of the other Vault managers get scared. One of them looks horny and the other looks like a perfect frame for a creepypasta in like 2012 or something. It is in this scene that we get to see how terrible the CGI actually is, so strap in because I'm gonna have to show things in detail. To save on FPS and not start lagging, one of the rad roaches, very blurry, goes up to a dead guy who doesn't actually look dead but rather looks like he's fallen asleep, and there's a packet of ketchup that was put across his neck. As the rad roach goes for his neck, we get to see that there's a fisheye lens effect applied to the camera for some reason. A blurry blob tries to attack Norm, but he gets away from it by using a chair as a shield. Why was a chair in the middle of the corridor next to the elevators? I don't know, don't even ask, we have more to get to. Following this, we get to see all of the other Vault managers running away and getting cut down one by one. The blurry blobs and PNGs, I guess they're using DLSS, keep chasing after them, but never in focus because that's how CGI works. Some get cut down, others try to fight back, one guy tries to hold a little object that was obviously a bit of green screen so the animators could add in the rad roach, and the others keep running away. They find a back room, Norm turns into a werewolf for 2 frames, but the lunch boy stops him from entering. Just before the lunch boy can actually close the door, we get a few more moments where we get to see how shitty shitty the special effects in this show actually are. No, seriously, look at your screen right now. This is, this was 18 million per episode, in case you're wondering. But as the totally real rad roaches approach, we can see that the lunch boy is pretending so hard to try to close the door that he's actually keeping the door open. As we can see from this image over here, the door closes outwards, as in outwards from those who are inside, and yet he has one of his hands on the outside of the door because not only is the CGI really shit, but nobody had any idea of what they were actually doing. So the guy that we're supposed to believe is trying to close the door is actively keeping the door open so he can pretend to be fighting an imaginary radroach. To the surprise of nobody, the door actually breaks open and the radroaches flow into the room, at which point the door closes by itself. And so everyone in that room is presumably left for dead except Norm's love interest. She's also in the room, by the way, but in case you didn't realize that they were going to spare her and keep her alive for Norm's character development, then I honestly don't know what to tell you. And so that scene ends as we see Norm hiding under a table. I'm not sure that's gonna do anything, but hey, whatever. We now move back to the blonde bitch who stopped hyperventilating and seems defiant. In order to fight back against the vault dwellers that are now sieging her in the overseer's office, she grabs the keepsake that she got from Betty that originally belonged to Hank McClane, Lucy's dad, and opens it. I wonder what it is. Maybe it's a gun, maybe it's a grenade, maybe it's a tablet that can control robots that she's gonna use to fight back against the vault dwellers, but no, it's actually a Pip-Boy. It's an Enclave. What the fuck? No. This isn't real. She turns on the Pip-Boy, connects it to the Enclave's frequency, says that she is actually Hank McClane's wife. She tells them to initiate phase 2 of the plan. I don't know how she has the authority to initiate it or what the fuck the phase 2 even is. We cut to the Enclave base in the Cheyenne Mountain Range. God damn it, the same Enclave base that we saw in season 1 when the Enclave scientist ran away. And then, I can't even fucking believe it, after we see how fucking shit the CGI is because parts of the building are floating off of the rocks, and then I can't even fucking believe it, we get to hear a bunch of radio chatter as if the Enclave, I guess this is the Enclave, actually accepted her request and is activating phase 2 of the plan. Oh god damn. So it seems that the writers decided to change what they were doing yet again because they ran out of ideas. Let me explain this right now. In season 1 of this late-term abortion of a show, in a throwaway line, the Brotherhood of Steel said that the Enclave broke containment when Wilczek, the Enclave scientist, fucked off from this base and started wandering around the wasteland with the MacGuffin that was called Fusion. He did this because he didn't like what the Enclave did to puppies. How the hell he got out of this base when it appears to be inescapable is beyond me, but just don't think about it. But given the fact that they said that the Enclave broke containment, my guess, my assumption, was that the Wee Wuzzers in Fallout Season 1, calling themselves the Brotherhood of Steel, had identified where the remnants of the Enclave were and kept them in containment because they couldn't kill them. It's already incredibly stupid because the Enclave was already beaten 3 fucking times in the previous Fallout games. That's Fallout 2, Fallout 3, and Fallout 76. But previous games had made it very fucking clear that the Enclave on the West Coast was done for. But now the Enclave is back again, not as a weak remnant, but in force. Apparently, through the Enclave oil rig getting nuked, the Enclave being destroyed in Fallout 3, and the Enclave killing itself in Fallout 76, oh, apparently now they're back. They're back once again. They've been here the whole time. They're all okay, and it's all according to fucking plan. And the trigger for their plan is, god fucking damn it, the fucking trigger for their plan is Hank fucking McClane and blonde bitch a Canadian. 3 things here. 1, go fuck yourself. Second thing, it is honestly amazing to me how, despite the fact that we haven't even covered a majority of the show, a majority is the Wasteland plotline, we've already gotten so much absolute evidence that these writers are out of ideas, just trying to bait you with things that you recognize and redoing things that came before. These writers are not creative in the slightest. They cannot create any new factions. They can only reuse what came before and completely disregard what came before while also hoping that you don't disregard what came before. The Enclave is by far the faction that has the most justification for showing up everywhere, and somehow, even though they have this justification, none of these fucking justifications make any goddamn sense. Because I don't know if you followed here, but the direct implication of this is that all of the events, all of the previous events from Fallout were actually planned. You know, the Enclave getting their teeth kicked in at the oil rig, the Enclave getting having their teeth kicked in Washington, the nukes, the motherfucking nukes. Well, all of that was in the plan. That's all a part of the plan. The Enclave knowing about the Enclave, but never informing the Enclave and letting the Enclave get enclaved because they're the Enclave and they're different, so they'll have a plan anyway. But this also motherfucking confirmed the theory I had in season 1 that the very spooky secret person watching the Vault-Tec meeting was actually a member of the Enclave. Oh boy, what a fucking shocker there. This is as much confirmation that we needed that everything that came before is now properly retconned. Who dropped the bombs? The Enclave. Who led to all of the events that took place? The Enclave. Who's been doing everything in the background the entire time? The fucking Enclave. The Enclave that already controlled basically all of America, if not quite literally all of America, all of Mexico, all of Canada, and who had already won, decided to drop the bombs, destroy the world, for fucking what exactly? To enact a stupid fucking plan after everything is dead? A plan that depends on Hank McClane or his apparent wife Steph? A plan that apparently gets triggered 200 years after the bombs drop when the Vault Dwellers revolt? I really need to underline how absolutely stupid all of this is. I need you guys to understand what the Enclave was before the war. The Enclave had already won before the war. The Enclave was basically in total control of the United States, of Canada, and all of the other annexed territories. However, the Enclave overdid it when invading China after they themselves got invaded, and it led to the nuclear apocalypse because China was losing the war. And because the Enclave is Vault-Tec and Vault-Tec is Enclave, I don't know if you've realized that, by the way, the Enclave is basically in total control of Vault-Tec. They had prepared the vaults in the event of nuclear war so there would still be a population for them to fucking control if everything went to shit. And also to make a little bit of money from rich people while there was a multi-continental sized fucking war. But now, no, all of that gets tossed to the side because the Enclave's real plan was actually to sit in the Cheyenne Mountains for 200 years doing dick all, waiting for 3 vaults populated with troglodytes to come in and say that it's actually ready to go. Oh, but wait, it gets even dumber than that, because if you remember Fallout Show Season 1, you'll know that Vault 32 revolted in obvious parallel to what's going on with Steph in Vault 32 again. Why is it that Hank McClane has so much fucking authority? Why is it that Steph can actually initiate Phase 2? And most importantly of all, why the fuck is it the Enclave again? Why the fuck is it the Enclave in a way that negates the events of the previous Fallout games? Oh wait, if you remember, you'll know that since Season 1, I have been saying that the entire point of this show is to retcon Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas. But now, apparently, it's also to retcon Fallout 3. In fact, I'm not gonna talk about the Wasteland plotline yet, but in the Wasteland plotline, it seems that the only Fallout game that doesn't get retconned is Fallout fucking 4. So, of course, all of the things that you did in the previous Fallout games, all the way from Fallout 1 to just before Fallout 4 don't fucking matter. Go figure that all of the things that you did before no longer mean anything. Now, all of that is absolutely pointless because the Enclave was always in control. The Brotherhood of Steel is now a fucking continental superpower, and all of your decisions just got fucking disregarded because of course they did. But somehow, despite all of this bullshit, it gets even fucking worse. Goddamn, I can't even believe. But somehow, it gets even worse because if you've played the DLC for Fallout New Vegas called Lonesome Road, you will know that there are a bajillion references to the Enclave in Chicago. I cannot fucking believe that Obsidian Entertainment left them a perfect blueprint to bring back the Enclave and they fucked it up. But I'm sorry, I'm actually doing it wrong. They didn't fuck it up. This was all fucking intentional. Bring back every single thing that you recognize, shove it in your face, try to make it mysterious and deep, but also turn it into a fucking laughingstock, and then shove in a bunch of oldie songs to distract the viewer from the fact that the franchise they fell in love with is being erased. How much? I really want to ask this. How fucking much do you want to bet that in a few months' time we're gonna get an Enclave Pip-Boy that you can buy right from Todd Howard's fucking merch store, or if you pre-order, yet another fucking re-release of Fallout 4 or some shit? A post-nuclear role-playing game full of stories and choices and shit has been turned from an RPG into a brand. Not a franchise, a fucking brand. Made not for the Fallout fan, but for the mass appeal, the mass audience that wouldn't have given a fuck about Fallout if they had consumed it the way it was originally intended. And if that doesn't piss you off, dear viewer, then I don't know what will. And in case you're wondering what the third thing I mentioned that I was gonna say was, well, the answer to that is go fuck yourself again. But yes, now we get another massive retcon where Blonde Bitch uses an Enclave Pip-Boy to contact the Enclave and to drum up cheap hype for Season 3 because they know that if they don't do this, they're gonna lose even more viewer numbers. And with that, the Vault plotline for Season 2 and wait, what do you mean there's more? Goddamn. We cut back to Norm, who gets out from under the table. He goes to see all the other Vault managers. They've all been massacred, so setting up all those characters didn't mean jack diddly dick. And as he looks through the bodies, anyways, it turns out that his love interest, conveniently enough, was the only survivor because she stabbed the radroach, and the other radroaches just left everyone there for dead. Where are the radroach corpses? Where did they go? I don't know, and to be honest, I don't care. It's just very convenient that she was the only person to survive out of literally everyone. But really, I don't fucking care. So Norm finds out that she's still alive, he picks her up, drags her out of the Vault-Tec building, and with that, this time for real, Vault plotline for Season 2 of the Fallout show on Amazon Prime ends. Thank God. Originally, this video was going to be far shorter than it actually was. I had developed this fucking review so it would be about 2 hours long, with the Vault plotline taking no longer than 40 minutes. And yet, as I kept developing this fucking review, I kept finding things that I had missed. And as I saw things that I had missed or not missed, I kept considering their implications, and it just got worse than I believed. Down to the point where, despite the fact that, don't worry, I am going to do the Wasteland plotline, I spent months considering if I should just cancel the Wasteland plotline segment or this review entirely because I simply can't handle this. But I decided that since I promised, I am going to stand up for my franchise, one of my franchises, and tear this fucking piece of shit apart in my own way, no matter how long it fucking takes. And that, above all, I would leave no fucking stone unturned because this show actually succeeded in one thing. What did it succeed in? In making me not notice half of the shit I talked about in this review. I am not kidding when I say that half of the things you have heard me talk about in this review are things that I actually hadn't noticed when I watched this originally. Why? Because this show jumps around back and forth constantly, incessantly, obnoxiously. You've heard that before, haven't you? This show jumps around back and forth so fucking constantly, so incessantly, so obnoxiously, so frequently. Not just between the Vault plotline and the Wasteland plotline, but the 2 sections of the Vault plotline and the 2 sections of the Wasteland plotline and the whatever the fuck. Overstimulates your senses with shitty music, shitty camera shots, shitty camera cuts, jump scare inducing increases in volume of certain sound effects like the radroaches that I didn't even play for you because even I got jump scared while editing this shit, that you simply cannot focus on anything even if you go into it trying to look out for problems. I wanted to like Fallout Show Season 1, I really did. But after seeing the reality of what this fucking piece of shit show would be, I came into Season 2 ready to identify every problem. I knew the exact fucking tricks this show was gonna pull, and still, somehow, this show made it so that I had to watch it 3 fucking times to notice most of this shit. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely despised this show on first viewing, but I only grew to hate it even more while editing this part. Is it really any wonder why so many people simply gave up on trying to review it or even watch it? Is it any wonder why most of the watch time of this show after it came out was actually just people rewatching Season 1? Is it any wonder why when you try to have a conversation with a Bethesda fan, they can't keep their fucking story straight, and it seems like they watched a different show than you did? It's because of this bullshit right here. It's because this show doesn't want you to focus on what it's putting in front of your screen. In front of you. And to conclude, for now, goddammit, I've said it before and I'll say it again, to conclude, this show is an absolute travesty. You should not watch this show. You should not give money to this show. You should not give money to Bethesda. But what you should do, if you want to find out more, is wait for part 2 of this review where we will review the Wasteland plotline of Fallout Show Season 2 on Amazon Prime. It should come out in September or October. I'm sorry, I simply don't have the conditions to work on videos for the next 2 months. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for rating. Thank you all so much for your patience because I wouldn't be here without it. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye. Once again, thank you guys for watching, and with a very special thanks to 1-800-TakingSomeLs, a Rando Dude, a real lobster with an internet connection, Albin Ek, Alcohest, Ambiguous Drink, Anononono, AuthoritarianOverthrown, Autumn Harvester, BenDynamic, boxfox Scoot, Bullet Hail, Cameron Mitchell, Deniz, dotEXCEL, Duelity, FML, Flannel McMannel, Garrett Mills, Garmer89, GuestDude, Heartless, Huscarl, Johnny Yuma, Kriegsman Jaeger, LocalBirdBrain, LostTheorem, LousyAppleKing, Nikoform, Ori Moreau, Purple Chowder, Raul Olivetti, Revlyo, Second Jokes, Sir Aquarius, Spoofers, Supergale, The Great Silver One, Ugly Anime Girl, No You're Not, Vinny, Waylay 108, and Zold for being the highest tier channel members. I promised a couple of months ago that I would shout out every single member that has supported me since January up until the release of the final version of Fallout Season 2, and I will, but because this is not the final version, I will not shout everyone out just yet. Anyway, thank you guys for watching once again, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good summer.